You know, if you've lived in San Francisco for as long as I have, coming here during the dark days of the AIDS HIV epidemic, you went to a lot of fundraisers, a lot of events raising money for good causes. And it's so many of them, including many that I went to, you'd see in the background a lovely person with a clipboard working anonymously. Well, that person is my guest tonight, the one and only Brenda Laribee. I always say that you do well by doing good. You've been raising money for a lot of good causes for a long time.
I have. It started in Boston in 1989-90, volunteering for the AIDS Action Committee. And truly, I moved to San Francisco to work in the AIDS epidemic.
Why?
I just felt like I needed to do it. It was a calling. It was a voice inside my head saying, this is what I should do next. I felt there was so much injustice. I really wanted to help out.
Well, I guess what I'm going for is a little deeper. What in your past or your family made you someone for whom this epidemic became very personal? I mean, you've lost dozens of friends.
I have, but it really started with the injustice and then the circle of friends. Thankfully now, nobody in my family yet, in my natural family, but certainly in my logical family, I've lost many people. And I was outraged at the way the government treated people. I just couldn't take it.
But at that time, you were a young college student or something.
That's very kind.
No, I mean it. I mean, you were...
I was in grad school when it really hit my forehead, like this is time to do something about this.
And was it a specific incident? Was it a friend that died, or was it just the Reagan administration and...
It was mostly the Reagan administration, reading Randy Schultz's book, and just becoming so aware of things being so unfair around me that I really wanted to do something to help.
So why San Francisco versus New York? New York's an easier commute from Boston.
It sure is, but I am not really fond of snow. And it was instinctual to come here. When I came here in 1986, I knew I always wanted to come back and live here, and it turned out to be the right move.
All right, so we both came here the same year. 1986 was awfully dark.
It was dark. It was dark. But I was still evolving at that point. But 1992, also very dark. I started my career here at the Shanti Project.
Talk to me about some of the organizations you worked with, and start with Shanti, because the San Francisco model of AIDS care was kind of centered around that organization for a while. I mean, for a while, AIDS care was literally taking care of people who were dying, and then taking care of the people who were taking care of the people who were dying. It was more spiritual than medical for a long time. At least that's my recollection.
Very much so, and I am not a medical person, so I pitched in the best way I knew how by helping do some financial management, which is where it started, and then fundraising. And I started at Shanti working with somebody I'd met in Boston, Alex Sabin, who took a gamble on me and gave me a full-time job, and they were one of the top three biggest AIDS organizations in town.
And tell people who do not know what Shanti is, what is it?
At the time, it was a lot of things, but its core mission is really caregiving, peer caregiving for people with HIV/AIDS, and
you could become a buddy. You could volunteer to be a buddy to someone who was living with AIDS/HIV,
which I did. In addition to working there, we all went through the training as part of our employment, and I couldn't not be a person to care for and be a companion and peer support for somebody. I learned a lot those first few years.
How many people's hands did you hold while they died?
No, I don't really know. Probably dozens.
I was going to say it wasn't 2 or 3.
No. It's not a scorecard I keep at home.
Yeah. Do you think that we're in a better place societally with AIDS than we were in '86? And I ask this in a way because everyone says, oh, the epidemic's better, it's improving. But the things that I remember about San Francisco in '86 was a real sense of, a tangible sense of community.
Right.
And I sometimes wonder if that still exists.
I think it very certainly does, and in my 25 years of working in this city, I can still feel it with the people that I have known and loved since the beginning, who have not lost. It's just a miracle to have so many of them still around. But I think that there's so many other things happening in the world that demand our attention, and AIDS is not as much of a crisis.
Right. Are we getting AIDS fatigue?
We might be. I think that...
And when I say we, I mean the big we, but also even you and me. I mean, in '86, we were like, am I fighting for my life or am I fighting for my next door neighbor's life?
Right. It's a good question. I don't feel AIDS fatigue, and I've dipped in and out. I haven't been working in the epidemic the whole entire time I've been here, although I've always maintained a connection and, of course, still have friends who are living with HIV. And in some ways, we've forgotten that that's something that's going on because they're all getting older and they're getting other kinds of ailments, or we all are, I should say. But I think, in working with a lot of the donors I've worked with since the very beginning of the epidemic, my time here in the epidemic, there's so many other causes that are near and dear to their heart and passions. They never set out to be the funders of all these wonderful AIDS services, and that's where they had to divert their attention because that became their passion. But now they have an opportunity, which is a challenge for some of us raising money for HIV/AIDS organizations, to keep that funding going.
Right. So your work is specifically helping raise money for nonprofits, but it's not all AIDS related now, is it?
Right. I diversified probably in 2004. I went out on my own after a really exciting and meaningful run of organizations and work that I've done. And I'd say that at any time during my consulting years, there's at least one HIV/AIDS organization in the mix. And right now, it's the National AIDS Memorial Grove.
Right. We were just speaking with John Cunningham about their 25th anniversary. Is it harder in 2016 to raise money for it than it was in 2015 and 14 and 13? And, I mean, when was the height as far as fundraising?
For the Grove, I think we're still growing. I think that because we're more than the epidemic. We're a social justice cause. We are the only national, I'm sure John talked about this, but the only national memorial for the epidemic. So I think our relevance continues and probably gets even bigger as we realize we've got to do something to really make sure that nobody forgets these stories. I did a little work earlier, as I probably saw you at the NCLR gala. I did some work with NCLR right after
National
the marriage.
Center for Lesbian Rights.
Right after they won marriage equality. And I think, again, there's still a lot of work to be done there, and there's a lot of supporters who understand that, and this is their cause.
So we're in an election year, no secret to anybody. Does having two candidates so diametrically opposed on most every issue make your job harder or easier?
That's a good question. I've been hearing that some funders are starting to save up just in case the election doesn't go their way. I'm not going to say which way that is, but you can imagine. And that's an interesting concept I had never heard. And this includes corporate funders.
So I guess you're making my point better than I was in my question. Are there people who are saying, Brenda, I'd love to write you a check, but talk to me on November 9th?
Nobody has said that directly to me yet. I assume I will hear it. And I know several of my clients are waiting until after the election to start their year-end giving. At the Grove, we can't wait because we have our big event and we've got to start that fundraising now, and it's our 25th anniversary. And I think for loyal supporters, the election is just another thing they give to, but they are going to stay true to the organizations they really support. But I do think for other supporters who are more fickle or driven by a particular issue here or there, and we love them too, but they are probably putting quite a bit of money into the election, and those who are really driven to do that and are probably not going to be quite as generous.
Who's your hero or heroine?
Alive or dead?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I don't know that I have a heroine or a hero, but I do have a mentor who I love very much, Deborah Kent, who taught me quite a bit. And I'm sure you saw me with her at many of those parties. And her adopted daughter, Sophie, is really my hope for the future. She's 16 now. She's quite a thriving teenager, and she is her own human being. I know Deborah is so proud of her. And since I don't have any children of my own, I get to dote on her and look to the future with her. So I really think.
So you're hopeful that there is another generation who people with great moms like the great late Deborah Kent.
Absolutely, and her current mom Jamie, and living in the state of North Carolina and dealing with the issues that she and her mom, her current mom, have had to deal with.
Carrying on, carrying on.
Carrying on, yes.
Thanks, Brenda. Always a pleasure.
Thank
Can't
you,
believe
David.
I've been on the show before. We'll have
I
you back.
know. Thank you, David. It's a pleasure.
See you on the 1st,
Yes.
November 30th.
Yes, both.
Thanks. We've been speaking to Brenda Laribee. I'm David Perry. Thanks for watching 10%. Good night.